Oh my gosh, you guys, it is finally time. It is the first episode of the Thin Walls podcast, season 1, and I am so relieved more than anything, honestly. I'm excited, I'm happy, whatever. I'm also relieved because today was my first day of recording with a guest, and it has been a day from hell. We lost our AC, and so we were dealing with that literally all morning. And then, right when that was all handled as best as it could be, we're living with fans right now. So if you hear fans in the background, forgive me. There was nothing I can do about it. But, anyways, I sat down to record, was ready to call our first guest, and then my computer just completely took a crap on me. The sound stopped working. It needed an update. Then it didn't recognize anything. And it just, had a total mental breakdown. And so did I. And then it was just a whole mess. My guest was waiting for an hour and a half. I had all this anxiety. Is my kid going to wake up? Because that's the only time I have to do this. And so it was rough. But anyways, doesn't matter. We're here. I wanted to do a proper intro episode, but I decided it was just cliche, and I wanted to give you guys something actually interesting to listen to during the first episode, because I figure everyone who's listening at least knows who I am and knows a little bit about me. You don't really need to know much else other than I'm your host. What you do need to know is today we have a very special guest, my cousin Tristan, who was actually born 20 years ago as Karmyn. And so today he is going to be talking about becoming transgender, and so I'm very excited because I haven't actually talked to him in depth about this. To be honest, we're not super close. We're not on bad terms or anything, but we don't talk a lot. And so it was really, really fun and interesting and special to get to talk to him about this and learn a lot of stuff that I actually didn't know, not only about my family, but about the transgender community in general. I want to preface this by saying I am learning, so forgive the sound quality. I am actually having to use my headphones instead of my Yeti right now just to do this intro. So hopefully the rest of it doesn't sound this spotty, but let's just get right into it here. We're going to go ahead and start the episode. I hope you guys enjoy. This is actually, I think, going to be the first episode. I had a few other episodes filmed and then just didn't like them. I'm learning sound every minute of every day, and I don't understand it at all, and it's very confusing. So I think I finally got it to a place where it'll at least sound decent, and so I really wanted to make sure that you were on an episode where at least I had a little bit of a handle on things. So
yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you coming on, because I know that we haven't talked in a long time. And you've been through so much in such a long time, I feel like I barely ever see you. So I just really appreciate you taking the time, and I am sure that it's been an emotional journey, and so really, really thankful that you're sharing that. And we're so open from the beginning to say, oh yeah, no questions are off limits, just go for it. So if you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself and then kind of go from the very beginning and give us a brief overview, that would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I'm 20 years old. I currently work as an HVAC technician. I'm out to all of my friends, all of my family. I have a girlfriend. We've been together for 3 years now. She's super supportive in everything I do. She knew from the very beginning, so there was no surprise secrets, anything like that, and she completely accepted me for who I am, and I thought that was fantastic. So, I started transitioning when I was 15. I was 15 years old, and that's when I really was like, something's not clicking, something's not right. I noticed that I was severely depressed coming home from school every day, just going to sleep as soon as I got home from school. I wouldn't eat. I wouldn't talk to anybody. I'd go downstairs, take a shower, come back up, and go to sleep. And finally, my parents were just like, hey, this isn't just normal teenage behavior. This is actual depression. What's going on? And I told them how I felt, that I was in the wrong body and that I didn't like what I saw when I looked in the mirror. And at first, they were just kind of like, well, it's a phase. Maybe you're just gay. Maybe you just like girls, and you're just like a butch lesbian. I was like, no, that's not it. This is a little stronger than that. And so I changed my name to Kingsley. I did not think very much of the name. At first I was just kind of like, hey, Kingsley's a cool name. We're gonna go with that one. Um, and I asked my parents to start calling me that and start using he, him, his pronouns, and they were like, no, like that's not going to happen. And then the depression just got even worse. When they told me that, it just got even worse.
Aww.
So I was like, this is not something I want to do anymore. At this point, I was like really big into self harm. I was depressed. Anxiety was eating me alive. I just couldn't. I didn't want to do it anymore. And then I think finally it clicked with my parents that like, oh my God, he's serious. Like this is something he really wants to do, and this is who he is. So we all kind of sat down, talked about it, changed the name. I think that was one of the questions was how did you pick the name Tristan?
Yeah.
So like I said, I chose the name Kingsley for myself, and my parents were like, all right, well, if we're going to do this, you're not sticking with that name. That name's ridiculous. And luckily, thinking about it years later, I'm like, yeah, that name is ridiculous. So we sat down, as a family, an entire family, all my siblings were there and everybody, we just started throwing out names. Like, just random names, Christian, Toby, Keith, just like, all these different names. And so I think it was my mom who said Tristan, and everybody was just kind of like, oh yeah, that's a good one. And I was like, yeah, I actually really like that one. So that's just the name we stuck with, and it landed on there. And then they were allowing me to pick my middle name, so I chose Eli, so Tristan Eli. And yeah, we went down to the court and got it changed officially. So.
Aww. I love it. I love Tristan Eli. I think that sounds so. It just flows really well.
Yeah.
I like that name a lot. See, okay, I always wondered that. I was like, how did he come up with the name Tristan? So, but that's crazy. I mean, I didn't realize that it was. I mean, 'cause you're 20 years old now, so that was only 5 years ago. So how much to go through in just 5 years? That's crazy.
Well, and the thing that really was the kicker of it all was for the first 2 years of high school, I went obviously as a female. And then going into my senior year, the summer of sophomore year is when I started testosterone and got the whole name changed and all that stuff. So I went back to school as Tristan, and oh my God, did that blow up into my face. I did not expect it as difficult as it was, not only with the school itself, trying to get all of my names changed in the computer system, all the new teachers to start calling me Tristan and all this stuff, but the amount of people that were just like, no, I'm not going to call you that, and no, I'm not going to start using he, him pronouns was a lot more than I expected.
Really?
But yeah, like there were just so many kids who were like, nope, I've known you for the past 2 years as a girl. I'm not changing that now. I refuse to change it. So
what?
there was just the amount of kids. At first I was like, yeah, there are definitely going to be a couple of people who are like, nope, not cool with it. I was like, that's cool, that's fine, whatever. But a lot of people ended up being like, no, I'm not doing that.
That is wild, because you like to think that you live in with social media and everything, you like to think you live in a society that's really accepting of, the LGBTQ community.
Right.
So that's kind of crazy. So were you bullied pretty badly for the last year of your high school?
Yeah, so junior year was super rough for me, not only because I was still getting used to being called Tristan and I was still getting used to being called he, him.
Yeah.
Because it really is a change. Like for the first 15 years of my life, I was called a girl, and I was, so used to that. And then all of a sudden people were like, hey, Tristan. I'm like, oh, wait, that's me. I should answer to that name, Like
Yeah.
it's definitely a name. It's a shocker, but I feel like with all of, like, you brought up the social media, I feel like on screen and behind a keyboard, a lot of people are cool with it, but when they're confronted with it in actual life, like it's right in front of them, they're like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to react,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was really unfortunate. There was a bunch of bullying, like you said, for sure. There was actually this one incident where this kid, we were in the middle of math class. I'll never forget this. This was probably the most traumatic part of my high school experience. In the middle of math class, the teacher was sitting down. We were taking a test or something like that. And he whispered over to me, "Hey, so you want me to call you Tristan now? Like, what's up with that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm transgender. I would like you to start calling me Tristan using he, him pronouns." And he stood up in the middle of the test when everybody was silent, taking their test. And he pointed directly at me and was like, "This is a female. Call her her. This
Oh
is her
my
birth
God.
name. Call her this."
Oh my
And I
God.
stood up. I started to cry, and I ran out of the classroom.
Oh my God.
And the
Oh.
teacher followed me and was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "Well, this is the whole situation." And she was like, "That was extremely disrespectful. That kid actually got suspended from school." But
Yeah.
I never returned to that math class
Dude,
because
I
I was just
wouldn't
so
either.
scared.
I wouldn't return to
Yeah,
that
I was.
school. I'd be
Yeah, I
like,
was just
bye.
so scared that everybody was going to start calling me that, and I would just take a major leap backwards. You
Yeah.
know.
Oh my
But
goodness.
there was also an incident where I went into the male's restroom because that was the restroom I was comfortable
Yeah.
going into.
Right.
And there were guys in there taking pictures of me, going to the office and complaining.
Oh my
So
God.
I got called down to the office, and they were like, "Well, we've had a couple of complaints. We've had parents call and complain.
Oh my
How would you
God.
feel about using the female restroom?" And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, sorry for my language, but, like, are you kidding me? Like, no, I'm not going to use the female
I
restroom."
would have been like,
And
how would you feel about using the opposite Like, that's literally like somebody asking you to go
yeah,
use
like,
the
if you're
opposite
a female,
restroom.
go into the male's restroom.
I don't understand why it's hard to understand. I
Yeah.
it's shocking. I mean, have you noticed a change in the last 5 years? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, absolutely. It's just, there's always going to be a couple of bad apples in the bunch, and you can't change people's minds. You can't change their views on things. All you can do is educate them,
right.
and that's what I set out to do. Like,
Yeah.
I have an entire Instagram page about just my transitions. I'm very open about a lot of my life in there. People, my DMs are completely open, so people can message me questions and stuff like that. I always say, no question is offensive, because it isn't. If people want to ask me, what do you have in between your legs? I'll tell them the correct answer, and then I'll follow it up with some education. I'm not like, that was rude. You can't ask people that, because then it just shows to them that I'm closed off and that I don't want to teach you anything. If you're asking questions, it means that you care enough to educate yourself about the topic.
Right.
So I'm super open to people asking me questions all the time. All the time.
Well, that's awesome. I think that's an awesome way to be, and I think that it's a really hard way to be because, I mean, if I was in your shoes or if I had anything like even now, my own experiences that I go through, I'm very hesitant to share because I'm like, I want to look strong, I want to be strong, and like I don't want anybody to know my business, and I think in our family especially, or
Yeah.
at least my family, it was very like, hey, don't tell our business to anybody, and like let's keep everything on the DL and blah blah blah. So that's kind of how I'm conditioned to be. But I think that's awesome that you're so open. I think it's important because it's like you said, how is anybody gonna know?
Right.
So I did have I was curious. I mean, did you? Because I knew you. Obviously, we're cousins. I grew up with you since you were a little baby. So you were always the sporty kid, though. Obviously, you were the tomboy of the family for sure. Like you were absolutely, So I don't think it came as a surprise to really. I mean, none of us. We were like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
So, but you said you didn't transition until you were 15, but I mean, have you kind of always known, or I mean, how did it feel when you were a kid?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I always knew, and I tried to make it to where people really couldn't tell that I was a female. Even when I was little, I was constantly trying to put my hair up into hats.
Yep.
I was constantly trying to wear boys' clothes. I was constantly wearing basketball shorts.
Yeah,
I was trying to make it to where people didn't even really know that I was a girl, and if they did, they were just kind of like, well, that doesn't seem right,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a good question I get asked a lot is there an exact moment where you knew that you wanted to be a boy? And a lot of people are like, no, I just kind of always known. And with me, it's kind of the same. I did always know, but there was this isolated incident where I was spending the night at one of my friend's house. She was a girl, and we were talking about dresses we were going to wear for prom. Like, she was pulling up all these prom dresses, and we were like in 8th grade at the time. She's like, well, when I grow up, I'm going to go to prom, I'm going to wear this dress and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, well, what dress would you want to wear? And I told her, I was like, I don't want to wear a dress. I want to wear a tuxedo. And that's when I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not this. I'm a guy. This ain't right.
Right. Huh.
But from that moment, that's when I was really like, okay, what is this that I'm feeling? I did some research, and I found the word transgender, and I was like, it fits exactly what I'm feeling.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
And did you tell anybody else in the family at all, or did you tell them all at the same time, or was there like, because you have 5 siblings. So
yeah.
Did any of?
I told Bella and Whitney, because Bella and Whitney are like my closest siblings.
Yeah.
I'm super close to both of them. I think I told Whitney first because she was older and I thought she'd understand a little bit more. But she was kind of in the same boat I was, which is kind of figuring out, like, what does that mean? What is this? What do you do with that? Okay, now that you know you're trans, what do you do? But Bella, she was just like, you want to be a boy. Cool. What do you want me to call you?
Yeah.
So they were both super supportive. And my brothers were really young. They were too young to really understand what it meant.
Yeah.
But, kind of told them, like, hey, I'm a boy. They were like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
It was really cool. Yeah. And to have a supportive family, I can't tell you how lucky and how appreciative I am, because there are a lot of kids out there that don't have that.
Yeah, and that's just, I mean, that's really sad. That's really sad.
Yeah. Get kicked out of it.
Yeah. So how long until you released it to, like, the rest of the family? Until you broke the news to the rest of the family? Because I remember roughly around the time that it happened, but how long did your immediate family know?
It was a couple of months. After I figured out, I think I was going into 9th grade when we were getting really serious about it. But I told my parents about it maybe a couple of months after I figured out what the word meant and what I really felt. And like I said, at first they were very like, this is just a phase. You're too young to really know what that means. You don't really understand it. But like I said, as the depression and the anxiety started continuing, and they were seeing the effect on my mental health that it was taking, that's when they were both kind of like, all right, this is something we need to do. And then my dad was actually like the last one to really accept it, which is, I mean, understandable. The family, with the family that he's grown up with, and the religion, and the culture that he's lived in, I can definitely see why it was a little bit harder, and especially because I was his first biological child.
Right. Yeah.
And he wanted a girl. He wanted a girl for his first biological child. I think it was a lot more difficult for him. But when he came home from work, all of his kids were downstairs eating dinner. And where's Tristan? Oh, well, he's upstairs in his room sleeping. How long has he been sleeping for? Oh, he's been sleeping ever since he got home at 2:00 this afternoon. And then I remember there's this one time where I came downstairs. I just finished sleeping. I came downstairs. I took a shower, and he was like, "Hey, how was your day?" And I didn't say anything to him. I didn't say anything to him. And so I went back upstairs into my room, And he was like, he came back up the stairs and he was all mad at me. He's like, I don't know who you think you are, just ignoring me like that. And I just started breaking down crying. I just broke down crying, and he was like, whoa, like, I didn't even really yell at you. Like, why are you crying? And then I was crying so bad that I couldn't even speak. So he was like, well, write it down. What do you want me to, what are you trying to say?
You were having like a full-blown panic attack.
Yeah, I was having a full-blown, like, mental breakdown. And so I wrote down on a piece of paper, I'm angry that I didn't die in my sleep.
Oh my God.
And he just looked at me like, what do you mean? Like, do we need to go to the hospital? Are you, like, trying to kill yourself? And I'm like, no, I'm not trying to kill myself. I'm just disappointed that I didn't die, you know? At this point,
Yeah.
I wanted to.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I have depression, and I've had that same feeling of, like, I don't, like, they always, freaking, I hate to say it, but the way that we deal with mental health in this country is not great. Like, we always are just like, well, do you have a plan? Oh, if you don't have a plan, then you're fine. And it's like, okay, I don't have to have a plan to feel like I don't want to be here anymore. Like, let's look at that as the issue, you know?
Right. Yeah, like, that's the problem.
Right, yeah.
But after that, you know, I think because he asked me that night, like, what do we need to do? Like, what is it that you want to do? What do you want me to do about this? And I told him I want to start hormones. I want top surgery. I want to change my name. I want to start dressing a certain way. I want facial hair. I want my leg hair to grow out and all this stuff. And he was like, all right, well, how do we do this? What's the next step? You know? And we did research together. We started researching what would be the next step, talking to doctors. And eventually, I think it was right before my 16th birthday, I started hormones. And he went with me to every single appointment.
Oh, that is so sweet. And I'm sure over time, was it like he connected more with you as Tristan and like saw you go through these struggles and these like overcoming things, and he was like, okay, this is my son. Like, this is...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And,
that's awesome.
You know, when he found out that, you know, kids were bullying me at school and stuff, he was enraged. He talked to the principals. He talked to teachers. He even wanted to sit down with the kids' parents who were bullying me and explain to them, you know, that you need to teach the child that obviously this isn't okay. But yeah, no, he really, once he finally grasped the concept that this is who I am, he ran with it. You know, he taught me how to change a spare tire. He taught me how to tuck my tie. He taught me to treat women correctly, you know, all this stuff. Like, he really embodied the idea that this is now my son.
Aww, that is so sweet. And that's so good to hear. Yeah. And I think I kind of, you know, as a parent now, I like to think like, oh, you know, if my son ever came out as gay or transgender or like said he wanted to go do something crazy or whatever it is, you know, it's easy to think like I'm going to support him through everything and anything. But you don't think about like, I mean, it matters not as much as it matters that you live your most authentic life, right? But like it does have an effect on the people that love and the people you love and the people that love you, because they're also going through all of this same stuff with you, you know? And I think that's why a lot of parents reject the idea. Is not all ignorance, it's also like them suffering a loss. So
well, and that was a big thing for my dad, was letting go of Karmyn and embrace that it's Tristan, you know, because he felt like he lost a daughter, and he did. He did lose a daughter. But in exchange, he got a kick-ass son.
Right.
So, you know?
Yeah. And I can't think of you as any other way now, which is crazy, because, I mean, I knew you as Karmyn for my whole life, and now I just don't see anybody else but Tristan. It's just...
Right. And, you know...
For a while, though, it was hard for everybody, too, and the rest of the family. I remember, like, us talking about it, or you coming over or something, and us trying to catch ourselves and be like, oh, okay... That's Tristan. That's not Karmyn, you know?
Right.
So...
It's such a thing, you know, and even with my immediate family, the people that I lived with at the time, they would even slip up and call me a she, but then they'd turn around and correct themselves right away.
Would that...
You know?
I mean, honestly, like, real talk right now, would that hurt you when they did that, or were you like, no, I get it? Or was it kind of
It
both?
it only hurt me when they didn't correct themselves.
Okay.
If they just like left it there and was like, yeah, she, and then just didn't care to correct themselves, that's when I was like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
But if you turned around and corrected yourself right away, I was like, awesome. That's great.
That's so awesome. So you've been with your girlfriend, you said, for 3 years?
Yeah.
So
We actually
she's...
just passed her 3-year anniversary.
And what was her name? Michaela?
Michaela.
Michaela? That's awesome. And so that's kind of crazy. You've been in a relationship during literally all of this. Like, pretty much this entire journey.
Yeah, I mean, she went with me the day that I got my top surgery done. She was there. She held my hand before I went back. And then she was right there holding my hand as soon as I woke up.
Aww.
You know, and I have pictures because obviously the couple of days after surgery were a little bit rough. I was groggy. I was taking medication.
Of course.
But I have pictures of her just holding my hand and cuddling me while I was sleeping.
Oh my gosh.
After the surgery. She was fantastic. She'd help me, keep because the drains that they put, out on the side to drain the fluids and stuff. She would help me drain those when I needed to because I was just a little too weak to do it myself. She goes with me to Pride events. Like, she is 110% one of my biggest supporters.
Aww, that is so sweet. And so you said you were completely open with her from the beginning. So you did meet her as Tristan because you've been Tristan for 5 years now, and you met her 3 years ago, right?
Yep. And I made sure she knew for sure. Like, I was flat out honest. I was like, I'm trans, right? Like, I was born a female. She was like, yeah. I was like, cool.
Aww.
And we keep talking. Because that does actually happen a lot. A lot of trans people just keep it a surprise. And then, when it comes down to it, they're like, what? And I'm like, no, that's not right.
No,
that's not right.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Like, a lot of mental health issues and stuff, and, like, being trans or being gay or any of that kind of stuff, it's like people have a really hard time just being honest about it, but then they have no hard time at all about talking about, like, if they have other issues like lupus or cancer or like something that you can actually physically see. But for some reason, when you can't see it, people are like so quick to hide it or be ashamed of it. And it's like, man, it's literally the same thing. Like, you cannot control, you cannot control being bipolar. You cannot control being gay. You cannot control being trans, depressed, whatever it is. Like who you are. I wish there was a way to just get rid of all the shame around that stuff, because there should be no shame about it. There should be no secrets,
Not at all.
I did have one last question for you, but it is pretty intense, so I just want to make sure it's okay that I ask this question.
Please. Absolutely, go.
But, I've always wondered, and I've always been curious, like, after all the hormones and the surgeries and stuff, I'm sure that helps, but do you think that you'll ever fully feel like transitioned? Or, do you know what I'm trying to ask? Because...
Yeah, I get that. I'm definitely a lot happier than I was in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I have some sort of facial hair, I don't have a lot, but I do have some sort of facial hair.
You have more than my fiance.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm actually trying to shoot for a lot more, but that's my dad's fault. He doesn't have a lot of facial hair, so genetics and all that fun stuff. But, my voice is deeper. I've, built some muscle tone. I'm definitely a lot happier, but I feel like the last piece that I'm missing is obviously bottom surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are so many different ways you can go about bottom surgery that it's ridiculous how many things they can actually do for you. But the procedure that I'm really looking into is called a phalloplasty. And that's obviously where they construct the penis for you and construct testicles and all that stuff. But obviously that surgery is thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. It's ridiculous. And it's actually not one surgery, it's 5 surgeries total. Spread out throughout.
5 surgeries?
Yeah, it's spread out through 2 years. So, you go through the first stage, second stage, all that stuff. But I feel like once I get that, the transition, for me at least, will be complete. You know?
Yeah.
And a lot of trans people, they are like, well, I'll still always have the thought that I was born a female or I was born a male.
Right.
And if you have that mindset, you're never going to be happy with yourself, and you're never going to be happy with your life.
Right.
But if you do everything you possibly medically can do to make you feel more comfortable in your own skin, that's enough for me, at least.
Yeah. So you're more in the mindset of like, you know, this is the body that I'm in. I'm doing what I can with it, but what matters is my mind, and this is who I am, and this is the life that I'm living. So that's enough for me.
It will completely change your mental state if you let it.
Right.
If you just dwell on all the bad things, like, oh, my voice isn't as deep as it is today as it was yesterday, or oh, I feel a little girly in that pair of shorts, you know, gotta change. You know, like if you just nitpick at yourself all day long, you're not gonna be happy.
I didn't even think that was I didn't, obviously, you know, I don't, because I'm not transgender, but I didn't even think about that. Like, that must be something daily that you have to kind of check on and make sure that you're not, like, training your brain to go down those paths.
Yeah, I mean, before I got top surgery, I used to wear a binder, and it just constricts your breath, so it doesn't look like, you know, you have breath. It just looks like you're flat chested. And I used to wear that thing for more like 8 hours plus a day, and that's super unhealthy. But it was the only way I felt comfortable with myself. But the biggest thing with me was that you could see the binder straps in some shirts. So I would literally, every day before I got up from school, I would pick almost the same shirt or just wear a hoodie to avoid people seeing my binder straps. Like, that was the biggest thing for me, was those stupid binder straps. It was the biggest source of anxiety for me. But obviously I don't have to worry about that now because I got top surgery.
Yeah.
But if you just nitpick at yourself like that all day long, you're going to go down a rabbit hole of depression and anxiety, and it's not going to be fun for you. Yeah. And I've definitely been down that hole before.
So what is your, I mean, this sounds kind of like a cliche question, but what would be the biggest piece of advice you'd have to kids feeling this way, or even adults feeling this way, that are like scared to come out or not sure if this is what it is? I mean,
yeah. I'd say the biggest part is do your research. You know, look up these different terms, because there are so many terms in the LGBT community that a lot of people are like, I didn't even know that was a thing. You know, so do your research, figure out which one matches best for you. So for me, it was transgender, and then start reaching out to people who also identify as transgender or identify as pansexual or whatever it is. You know, to start reaching out. There are plenty of groups not only on Facebook, but, you know, in real life you can go see. They have support groups all over the place. Just start reaching out and hearing other people's stories. And if they match with you, then, you know, ask them, hey, what did you do to fix this? Or what did you do when you felt this? You know, just, I think reaching out to people and really being open about who you are and what you want to do with your life is going to open up so many doors that you're not going to feel alone.
So just community.
Community, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. And what about to be an ally? Because I know, I'm going to be fully honest here, like way back in the day, Cassie, I think, was in 7th or 8th grade, and she fell in love with, well, as much as you can in 7th grade, right? And she fell in love with this guy who turned out to be a girl, and so that caused a lot of anger for me and for her, because I was like, how sneaky and like wrong, and like, why would you lie about something like that? And now that I'm older and this is kind of, you know, awareness is being spread all the time and I'm doing research, it's like, I'm obviously not angry anymore, because one, she was in 7th grade and we're both over it, I'm pretty sure, but two, you know, it's like that kid could not help it. I mean, he was a kid who was trapped in his body and probably didn't have any support at all. And so, even though he might have not been the nicest guy or the best guy, it's probably because he was going through a lot, you know?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Too
um,
scared at the, you know.
yeah, so I think over the years, for sure, for me, I mean, when I was in early high school and when that stuff was happening, I did not understand it. I did not get it. And I was like, this is crazy that this is such a big topic right now, you know? And then over the years, it's really just gained so much traction. And I'm so glad because now I feel like I understand and older people, like our parents' age, understand. And I think it's
Hmm.
just really, really good. So, um, do you have any good resources or websites that I can maybe put in the bio if anyone wanted to do research or wanted to become a better ally?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a well, this one's mainly for like other trans people. A big problem that, like I mentioned earlier, that I was having was finding bathrooms, that I felt comfortable in, or
Okay.
that felt like were okay to go in. There's actually an app you can download that's called Refugee Restrooms, and it obviously can track your location, and then it shows bathrooms around you that are either LGBT friendly that allow you to use the bathroom you identify with, or the nearest family restroom, that you can go in and obviously and nobody will be taking pictures of you or stuff like that.
Mm.
I found this app like really useful when I was first starting to transition because obviously I was out in public a lot,
Yeah.
and like I don't know if this company or if this store would allow me to use the men's restroom. But this app takes care of it for you and does your research for you. So that was a great app that I loved a lot.
That is so cool, but also kind of sad that we have to have an app like that because people are so
Right.
intolerable. But
No.
that's cool. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know it was a thing either until I was like, okay, there's got to be a better solution for this. Like, I can't just be Googling, is Walmart going to allow me to use their bathrooms?
Oh my
Like,
gosh, I can't imagine
like,
having to do that.
yeah. So I found that app, and it was a lifesaver for me.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, definitely text me with all the links that you think would be helpful, and I want to definitely make sure I put them in the bio
Yeah,
of this video.
absolutely.
And then, other than that, I mean, I don't know if I have any other questions. You did a really good job of just overall telling your story. You were
Well, good.
ready. You
Thanks.
were like,
I was ready. I was absolutely ready.
yeah. So,
People, biggest thing.
what was that?
I said educating people is my biggest thing.
It's so important. It really is.
It is.
I mean, and it's like even if you think you're doing it on a small scale, I'm sure some of our family's going to listen to this, or like people close to us will listen to this, and it'll kind of open their eyes a lot more. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
even if you think it's on a
Absolutely.
small scale or a big scale, education is absolutely the biggest thing. Um, so I don't know. I just thank you for coming on and being patient with me because I am so brand spanking new to this and I'm learning every day. So
I'm glad I could help you out. Figure out some cool new tricks.
yeah, definitely. Hopefully so. If I need anything else from you, I'll hit you up. But just thank you so much for coming on and sharing. Um, do you have anything else that you want to share with the people?
If you guys ever, if anybody does listen to this and is like, I have further questions, I have an Instagram. I'll send it to you. You can link it. My DMs are constantly open. I have a lot of good stuff on my Instagram. Just picture questions that I get asked a lot that I just answer openly on there. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to message me.
That's awesome. I'm glad you're such an open book. Well,
Yeah,
so thank you.
absolutely. Well, thanks for inviting me. Letting letting me tell my story.
Of course, of course. Other than that, just have a good day, man.
Yeah, you too. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
And that is a wrap on episode 1. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you made it this far, just thank you for bearing with me while I learn how to do this whole podcast thing. If you did like the episode, I'd appreciate it if you'd give a follow, a like, a subscribe. Whatever you're listening to this on, you know how to support it. So go ahead and do all the things. And hopefully we'll talk to you next Tuesday. Bye, guys.